In the news, Supreme Court fixes May 24 for judgment in the appeals over disqualification of All Progressives Congress candidates in the 2019 general elections in Zamfara State. Bauchi State Assembly passes bill banning all forms of gambling, ownership and operations of gaming machines, including NairaBet and BetNiger. Taiwan's parliament becomes first in Asia to legalize same-sex marriages. And I am Rose Audu with the details of these and more. President Muhammadu Buhari arrives Medina, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, ahead of Umrah in Makkah, Thursday, May 16, 2019. He was received by Deputy Governor of Medina, Prince Saad bin Khalid Al Fafai.
President Muhammadu Buhari arrived Medina International Airport in the city of the Holy Prophet Muhammad at about 6 o'clock Thursday evening local time. On hand to receive him was a high-powered Saudi Arabian government delegation led by the Deputy Governor of Medina, Prince Saud bin Khalid Al Faisal. Also at the airport include Nigeria's ambassador to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Isa Muhammad Dodo, Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, and other personalities. This is the second time President Muhammadu Buhari is being invited to the kingdom by Saudi monarch in the last 3 years.
The king of Saudi Arabia, custodian of the two holy mosques, has a tradition of inviting key world Muslim leaders to visit at this time. And to be so selected, it's considered as the highest honor the Saudi kingdom can offer to a leader and to a nation. So actually this is an honor not only to President Muhammadu Buhari, to Nigeria as a nation. So really for any Muslim, whether a leader or a follower, this is the greatest honor that can be bestowed on anyone and on a nation. And we're quite pleased with this.
Shortly on arrival, President Muhammadu Buhari joined the Muslim Ummah at the Mosque of the Holy Prophet Muhammad in the heart of Medina to break his fast and observe the Maghrib prayers. This was at Rauda, the most revered section of the mosque, opened for him and his delegation as a mark of honor and respect. It was therefore an opportunity to pray fervently for Nigeria.
The president has been troubled over time by some of the challenges, new challenges, particularly as they relate to the security of the country. And the president, as do all other believers, yes, there is a sense that prayers will also help. Law enforcement is doing everything they can. Citizens are doing whatever they can, to ameliorate and combat the situation. But so we're taking our case to the Almighty in the hope that, especially at this time of the Ramadan, which is a very holy period for Muslims, that God Almighty will listen to Nigerians and would ease, our current national dispensation.
President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to depart Medina for Mecca on Friday to perform the Lesser Hajj at the Grand Kaaba.
And the Supreme Court has fixed May 24 for judgment in the appeals over the disqualification of candidates of the All Progressives Congress in Zamfara State. A 5-member panel of justices presided by the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Tanka Muhammad, on Thursday, fixed the date after listening to the arguments of counsels in the matter. The Governor Abdulaziz Yari faction of the APC, which emerged after the October 3, 2018 primary of the party had in the appeal by their lawyer Lateef Fagbemi, asked the Apex Court to set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Sokoto. A 3-member panel of the Court of Appeal in Sokoto dismissed the judgment of the Zamfara State High Court, which recognized the October 3, 2018 primary, for failing to properly evaluate the evidence at the primary was in line with INEC's guidelines and party constitution. The appellate court's decision affected all candidates of the APC in the elective positions of the 2019 general elections. All the candidates fielded by the Yari faction of the party for the governorship, national and state house of assembly elections had won. Also, the APC national headquarters filed an appeal through its counsel, Damian Dodo, asking the Apex Court to quash the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Sokoto and recognize that of the High Court over the candidates of the party in Zamfara State. But counsel to the Kabir Marafa faction, Mike Ozehome, urged the Apex Court to strike out the appeal by the Yari faction for being unmeritorious and incompetent, as they were seeking reliefs from the Court of Appeal and not the Supreme Court. Ozehome also asked the Apex Court not only to strike out the APC appeal for being incompetent, but to award substantial cost. Yari's faction of the APC had filed the appeals before the Court of Appeal in Sokoto. The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja on Wednesday dismissed the suit seeking to declare the seats of Senators Bukola Saraki, Godswill Akpabio, Yakubu Dogara and 51 other federal lawmakers that defected from their respective political parties prior to the 2015 general election to another party. The plaintiff, an advocacy group under the aegis of Legal Defense and Assistance Project, LEDAP, had approached the court seeking to declare the seats of the defendants, which comprised 17 senators and 37 House of Representative members, vacant. Defendants in the suit included both members of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The plaintiff in its suit contended that the defendant's defection was in violation of Section 68 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Delivering judgment, the trial judge, Justice Okon Abang, held that the defendants, aside Akpabio, acted in breach of the Constitution by dumping political parties that sponsored them. The court, however, threw out the suit on ground that the plaintiff was bereft of the locus standi to institute the action. The court agreed with the plaintiff that the defendants, apart from Akpabio, failed to adduce any evidence to establish that there was a division in their political parties before they defected. Justice Abang, however, noted that neither the APC nor the PDP was joined as a party in the suit. He held that though the plaintiff presented a very good case, it, however, failed to prove how the defection of the lawmakers affected its rights and obligations above that of the general public. The court stressed that the matter could not be classified as a public interest litigation suit, since the plaintiff did not secure fiat of the Attorney General of the Federation to institute the action against the lawmakers. On Akpabio's case, Justice Abang held that there was evidence before the court that he joined the APC after he was expelled by the PDP. He also held that having been expelled, Akpabio was no longer a member of any political party, as at the time he moved to the APC to exercise his constitutional rights under Section 40 of the Constitution. The plaintiff had sued all the 53 lawmakers together, but days before the judgment, Akpabio approached the court, asking to sever him from other defendants. The court consequently granted his request and separated his own suit from others. The Independent National Electoral Commission and Counsel to Kwara State Governor-elect Abdulrahman Abdulrazak Salman Chawondo Thursday defended the genuineness of the West African Examination Certificate presented to INEC for the 2019 governorship elections by the incoming governor. The People's Democratic Party, its governorship candidate and Action Alliance are challenging the authenticity of the WAEC certificate presented to INEC by the APC governor-elect for the March 9 governorship elections. At the resumed pre-hearing of the Election Petition Tribunal in Ilorin, Jawondo tendered photocopy of WAEC certificate of another person to the tribunal to show that names or initials of candidates can be abbreviated. However, counsel to the PDP governorship candidate and the PDP Kingsley Ode argued that West African Examination Council does not abbreviate surname, even if it were to abbreviate first names. Ode, who identified conflicts in the documents tendered by Jawondo, said the governor-elect submitted a WAEC certificate with Razak AP in 2019 and a document which reads Razak AR in 2014. That's the conflict, he said, adding that the photocopy of WAEC certificate tendered by Jawondo was General Certificate in Education of WAEC and not that of the Senior Secondary School Examination Certificate of WAEC. And speaking with reporters after the sitting, counsel to the INEC, Roland Otaru, said the petitioner got it wrong to put initials of the governor-elect as AP. What the petitioners were saying in their pleadings is that Abdul Razak AP, but initials of the governor-elect is not even AP. It is AR. So even from the body of their petition, they are even wrong. We now want to show that the certificate of the governor-elect is genuine, valid and issued by WAEC. Counsel to the PDP governorship candidate and the PDP in the state said it was actually the governor-elect's counsel that tendered bundle of evidences containing second respondent certificates that was submitted alongside other documents. The photocopy of certificate actually submitted for 2019 elections reads Razak AP. Now, in their response, they have annexed another document, a certificate he actually submitted in 2014 in general elections. That document reads Razak AR, so they have actually aided our case. The tribunal adjourned proceedings to May 22nd for continuation of pre-hearing when INEC is expected to produce documents in its custody. In its bid to completely take over the leadership of Imo State House of Assembly, the new Speaker's camp, led by Chinedu Ofor yesterday, issued the embattled Speaker, Acho Ahim, a 24-hour ultimatum to resign his position or face immediate impeachment. This came after the Deputy Speaker, Ugonna Zoigbo, reportedly resigned his position. The latest move by the Deputy Speaker was to avert the looming impeachment process against all the principal officers of the Assembly. However, Ihem has dismissed his deputy's resignation, saying it was not in line with parliamentary procedures, adding that Zoibo has not presented his letter of resignation at the floor of the House, as stipulated by the rules of the House. At press time, Ofor's group was putting its plans together to ensure that either the Speaker resigns voluntarily or prepares to face them. The controversy centered on what the aggrieved lawmakers tagged a unilateral decision by Ihem to recall the council chairman, who were earlier suspended for a reason weaved around the mismanagement of finances. Ekiti State government has declared null and void the employment of over 2,000 workers by former Governor Ayodele Fayose, which was carried out after the July 2018 Ekiti State governorship election. Commissioner for Information Muyiwa Olumilua said the state government's decision followed the report of a committee set up by the state government to review irregular appointments in the public service between 2014 and 2018. Olumilua, who addressed journalists on Thursday on the outcome of Wednesday's State Executive Council meeting, said affected workers who had been warned earlier against Fayose's last-minute appointment could apply in the next exercise. He said the governor, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, had directed the head of service, Ayodeji Ajayi, to collate all available vacancies in the civil service, with the overhead implications to enable the state government prepared to recruit suitable and qualified Ekiti citizens irrespective of party affiliations. The chairman, Trade Union Congress, Shola Adigum, who disclosed that Labour would meet the head of service on clarification on the issue, said, "We will hold Fayemi by his words. He had said there would be no vendetta or victimization. We plead for mercy on behalf of these workers. The punishment for the mistakes of the past government should not be meted on these innocent Ekiti people. We want government to look into the plight of these workers." Fayose, in his reaction, described Fayemi administration's decision to sack the workers as wickedness and political vendetta. Promoted to the peak, he urged victims of the action to place their hope in God and enforce their right to seek redress in the court of law. The Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Muhammad Bello, has explained reasons behind the controversial demolition of Caramello nightclub. Bello, who spoke after the Federal Executive Council meeting chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibajo, said the action taken was as a last resort following a breach by the original owner. Painful as it was, the minister underscored that Abuja is a city for everyone. Nevertheless, he says the law had to take its course and the government is determined to follow the master plan in all its dealings. And you're watching Clearview Television News. We will be back after this timeout.
Night concert is the secret of cheap viewing. All you have to do, just get your decoder, any free-to-air decoder at all, and tell the installer to track it to Night concert.
So you get all your latest news from there.
It's not only that, entertainment, Hausa programs, sports, even news from the villa and plenty other things.
And I've been burning my money on that company from Southeast Africa or Northeast Africa or somewhere. I'll be back.
When are you going to?
To get my decoder, of course.
It's switchover time. Nigeria Communication Satellite Night Concert. It is viewed in about 38 countries. No subscription. Just buy the free-to-air decoder. Be part of this, and you have access to Clearview Television 24 hours, 7 days.
And on the flagship news, to speak on why insecurity is a hard nut to crack for Nigeria's leadership is a political analyst and the Executive Secretary Anti-Corruption Network, Ebenezer Oyetakin. Oyetakin, you are welcome to Clearview Newsroom.
Thank you. Thank you, dear.
It's good to have you on our news today.
My pleasure.
Now, let's talk about insecurity in Nigeria. Why has insecurity become a hard nut to crack by Nigerian leaders?
Yes, one has to take into consideration the nature, character of the security challenges we are having. In the first place, when this administration was coming in, predominantly the security challenge that we were focusing was Boko Haram. And do not forget, Boko Haram is an international and intercontinental unconventional armies. But I think Nigeria has not grasped with that reality on time. They thought it was just some miscreantic youths that were jobless and things of that nature. So they underestimated the ferocity of that security challenge. Then there was a security challenge that was created by abuse of democracy. Gross abuse of democracy, because some people mistaken democracy to mean development, but honestly, it is far from it. Democracy only presupposes that you should take the quantums of liberty and freedom you need in order to develop your people. But when you open up everywhere in the name of freedom against some certain norms, ethics, and mode of conduct, then democracy will be grossly abused. What I'm saying is you had pockets of armies and they kept on growing. They kept on growing and gotten emboldened in their practices. You employ them in the name of thugs for political purposes, to rig elections. You even import uniform for them, for police uniform, army's uniform, you disguised them. In the early stage of our democracy, we saw those things, that even a sitting governor was kidnapped by those kind of a thug. Now, the president that was on seat then looked the other way. He never knew that it was the constitutions of Nigeria that was being kidnapped, and they never treated it as ought to be treated. So our democracy opened up a lot of fronts. Then kidnapping came into it as a trade. Not under this administration, it's only aggravated under this administration. So in all, the abuse of democracy by the political class created much more of these security challenges that we are beginning to witness today. And the government has been doing their best to tackle it. They had substantially rolled back the Boko Haram that they focused when they were coming in and things of that nature. But One important issues we must underscore and call the attention of government to is that whenever you arrest, when people are arrested for banditry, for all of these security challenges, somebody who had played a role, or for kidnapping, we should expedite punishment on them. We should treat it with speed. For example, this kidnapping kingpin that is in Lagos now in court today for more than how many? No, you don't treat a criminal case like that. You must be ferocious against every crime. And more so, one other thing we must underscore is that you must expose them. If they are your father, if they are your uncle, if they are your political chairman in your political party, you must expose them. Anybody that has hands in those security challenges, you should expose them, reveal their identities, so that the nations will set eyes on them, and I tell you, they will go down.
All right, thank you very much on that. And recently on Premium Times report, we have the Chief of Army Staff, Tukuru Buratai, saying that the politicians that lost out in the just concluded elections were the one responsible for the high, rate of insecurity in the country. What can you really say about that assertion?
He is very correct. He is very correct, but he must act promptly too, to ensure that whatever security intelligence that link him to that, he should put it to work and make sure that nobody is above the law. Ever before he came out to say that, I had in one of commentary somewhere said that politicians has resumed the killings of Nigerians. I vividly said it, and I said that in the next few days, en route to the May 29 when they will swear in Mr. President, we should expect the security challenges to be aggravated because they are handiwork of political gladiators. I said this, and honestly, I said it not more than 3 days. That was when the ADC's father-in-law was kidnapped and things of that nature, and it really escalated according to my prediction. Sometimes you don't need this skyrocket science to understand these things and that kind of a thing. When the elections of 2019 was coming in, the killings, the kidnapping and everything subsided, because politicians know how to manipulate system in order to suit their aspiration and that kind of a thing. And the moment the election went down, then the whole thing's exacerbated. And then you don't need any soothsayer to tell you that politicians are killing Nigeria. And Professor Wole Soyinka, ever before the election, also raised the same alarm that it is politicians that are doing it.
Okay, thank you very much on that. Saying that these politicians actually have a hand in that, we also understand that this insecurity was actually on ground before that election.
Yes, they were on ground before that election. You see, even during the military rule, let me tell you this, as somebody who has gotten these intra-governmental relationships across country, at least some 50 countries. So I can tell you that whenever the military want to take over from another military government, or they want to overrun a democratic setup, we create a segment of armed robberies, engineer them, finance them. They will create targets that they will be attacking for them and that kind of a thing. It is worst under democratic regimes whereby you have opened the door of freedom so freely that people now build their own armies, they have their own thugs, and they armed them to the teeth with the sophisticated weaponry and things of that nature. When you have that kind of a thing, it is very easy to create an image of insecurity. One of the reasons they are doing this is that they want the military to take over, if possible, before the swearing in. When they presupposes that Buhari will be defeated in the election that was coming, they rained down all the insecurity and the security challenges. They actually went down. They thought by February we will no longer have him. Now that it has become a reality that the second term has come to stand, they have decided to aggravate the insecurity. I have no slightest doubt about this.
All right, having said that, Oyetakin, can you say that the Nigerian security force have done enough to curb this insecurity situation in the country?
It is most unfortunate that the security forces in Nigeria, I think we should commend them. We should commend them greatly. Don't forget, even among them, there are saboteurs. Even among them, there are ones that are playing to the dictums of the foreign interest upon Nigeria and things of that nature, because these things are not segmented things. They have their concurrent flow, both nationally and internationally. There are people who can sell Nigeria for the stench of dollars. They can betray the sovereignty of this country. They are in the military, they are in the police, they are in the SSS. So the security challenges that we had, our security forces has not been overwhelmed, but honestly they are overstressed. And those that are overstressing them, they are the political class. You see, if not for the security forces of Nigeria, particularly the military, the patriotism of Nigerian military are never in doubt with to me. If not for them, political class would have messed up this country and they would have dismembered it. I tell you this.
All right, thank you very much. And then as a Nigerian who understands the system, can you say that the Nigerian security force have enough training to combat this pandemic facing our country today?
They have enough training, but they are overstressed in the areas of personnel. I think they must do strategic recruitment of more personnel, particularly in the police, so that our army can be freed to face external aggressions and things of that nature. So those are the areas we should look at, but honestly, they have done very well.
All right, finally, Oyetakin, if you were in the position of the Nigerian president, what would you do at a time like this to put an end to the issue of insecurity in the country?
You see, incidentally, I'm not in the position of the president.
Yes, if you were in the position, thank God I said that.
I do not think I will do so much more differently with what he has been doing. Number one, you see, the nomenclatures of the security challenges call for comprehensive understanding as they emanate. You know, they started from Boko Haram, you talk about kidnapping, you talk about political torture, then now you give them a name, banditry. One areas I want him to work on is the areas of getting the security forces, as soon as they arrest anybody, trace the godfather behind them, trace the sponsors behind them. And honestly, if they are your uncles, if they are the chairman of your political party, whomsoever they are, expose them transparently. When you begin to expose them transparently, it will now underscore the word of our Lord Jesus Christ when he said, only the truth can set us free. But when you are covering up criminality because you want to be selective, you want to protect the integrity of some certain criminal, no criminal has integrity that should be protected. If they are my father, if I am a president, I will go against them. If they are my next of kin, I will go for them.
All right, thank you very much for joining us today on the news.
It is my pleasure.
All right, the Bauchi State House of Assembly has passed a bill banning all forms of gambling, ownership and operations of gaming machines, including NigerBet and BetNiger in the state. The member representing Lere Pula constituency, Aminu Tukur, who spoke to journalists after the House sitting in Bauchi on Thursday, said the bill seeks to ban all forms of gambling and its operations in the state. He said the bill, which was co-sponsored by 10 other members, should be cited as gambling and gaming machines prohibition law of the state. Tukur said the law provides that any gaming machine, be it electronic or otherwise, found in a place after 3 months of the commencement of the law shall be forfeited to the state government, according to him. The bill will ensure that gambling is not only banned, but will also sanitize the morality of youth and children. Both Islam and Christianity do not encourage or support gambling, which is a waste of funds, but also encourages immorality in the society, he said. Experts on biosafety in the ECOWAS region have converged in Abuja to validate the preliminary draft regulations on biosafety in the country. Member states, ECOWAS. Now the reports.
Gathered in this hall are experts to discuss issues related to biotechnology and biosafety as it concerns the West African sub-region. And this meeting also seeks to ensure that cross-border trade on living modified organisms and their products within the sub-region are harmonized, most importantly, environmentally safe. There are challenges facing West African sub-region, no doubt, but according to Nigeria's Minister of Environment, Suleiman Zarma, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Ibukun Odushotis, says collaborative efforts remain the leeway out of the situations which tend to weaken economic and regional security. He further affirms that Nigeria is committed and remains resolute in the regulation of modern biotechnology practices and products.
Nigeria's commitment to a holistic biosafety regulations for West Africa that will facilitate the adoption of safe and useful modern biotechnology. This will in turn boost the sub-region's agricultural productivity, industrialization, environmental sustainability, and economic growth. Nigeria also strongly advocates that for now, the draft regional regulations on biosafety should not in any way portray undue delay in the process of approvals and interfere with the ease of doing business within member countries in order to sustain an improved economy without any form of reservation in maintaining safety.
According to some stakeholders, they say the meeting will put in place regulations to ensure safety of everyone in the ECOWAS region, as today's meeting is for ministers of environment from ECOWAS member states to validate the regulations drafted. Biosafety has the potential to boost agricultural production, food security, among others, and it is for this reason that fines and regulations be put in place to ensure safety of the environment and humans. Uju Onyemechalo reporting for Clearview Television.
Nigeria's Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed has said the National Youth Service Corps members' allowance will be increased. She said the government was still working out modalities before the implementation of the new allowance for the Corps members. The minister said by the Act, the Corps members should earn at least the minimum wage, adding that the NYFC also has to increase allowances of Corps members to 30,000 naira. She said since a negotiation with Labour are yet to reach a consensus, she could not give the details of what government was projecting, adding that at the end of talks with Labour, a final decision will be taken. President Muhammadu Buhari in April signed into law the 30,000 naira minimum wage repeal and reenactment Act 2019. The change means the minimum monthly wage will rise to 30,000 naira from 18,000 naira. Corps members are currently earning a monthly allowance of 19,800 naira and 18,000 naira minimum wage plus 1,800 as transport allowance. The Secretary to Niger State Government, Honorable Ibrahim Issa Ladan, has appealed to the federal government to build bridges on highways to prevent the roads from further damage. In a statement issued in Abuja, Ladan observed that movement of overloaded articulated vehicles on highways has undermined government's investment on road construction across the country. He called on all stakeholders in transportation sector to encourage and enforce the use of bridges to check overburdening of the road that could result in road damage. Ladan also called on federal government to sustain its effort at revamping the road lines across the country to lengthen the lifespan of roads. We don't have to spend every year on road construction or rehabilitation if all the regulatory bodies and stakeholders develop good strategies for making all modes of transportation work. Developing an acceptable weight of vehicles and checking regular movement of especially articulated vehicles is important in this regard, he said. He, however, added that developed countries and even Niger and Benin Republic adopted these regulations to sustain their roads. He commended the federal government for its programs on road construction and rehabilitation, citing Lagos-Ibadan Expressway as well as other rehabilitation work as a good development. The Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG, says about 70% of Nigerians believe that it is not wrong to pay tax. The NESG stated this during its Fiscal Policy Roundtable event in Lagos, while launching its Citizens' Perception Report, a research advocating better tax system in the country. The group's Fiscal Policy Roundtable co-chair, Dr. Doyin Salami, said the government had been unable to meet recurrent and capital expenditures following a budget deficit of 3.8 billion naira and debt profile of 22.7 billion naira. The NESG noted that its project called Better Tax sought to close knowledge gaps in fiscal policy and create a sustainable framework to actualize the federal government's inclusive economic agenda. It noted that the report was a product of a nationwide perception survey across household and small businesses in the tax value chain. The report asked the government to establish an Office of Tax Simplification among other recommendations targeted at demystifying complex provisions in the nation's tax laws and boosting dwindling revenues from the non-oil sectors of the economy. The chairman NESG Fiscal Policy Roundtable, Dr. Sarah Alade, said the core concept of the roundtable was to reflect the needs and objectives that formed the basis of a robust fiscal reform platform focused on mobilizing and growing the country's tax revenue. She observed that the International Monetary Fund estimated that revenue collected in 2016 across all tiers of government was only about 6% of the gross domestic product. Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association has awarded varying scholarship schemes to 100 students. Speaking as special guest of honor at the scholarships award ceremony, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Gabriel Olanisakin, whilst expressing his delight, says if the home front is not settled, there is nothing we can do as a nation, hence the need to cater for the young stars. Clearview TV's Prudence Okona was there and now completes the story.
A total of 100 students this Friday in Abuja were awarded scholarships by the Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association. The scholarships, which are divided into 3 categories, namely 22 secondary school leavers who have lost their fathers at the battlefront, 45 pupils who performed exceptionally in the academics, and 33 wards of DEPOA staff and personnel. The first batch of students gets 500,000 naira each for their university education, while the second and third batch have a section of their school fees paid with books needed for that duration. Speaking at the ceremony, the president of the POA, Bolanle Olonishakin, expressed satisfaction with the realization of the project, adding that it was based on a promise of using proceeds from the association's book launch earlier in the year.
A public presentation and book launch, and reiterated that proceeds from the book launch will be tailored towards charity. The orphans in our midst, wards of our fallen heroes in the military barrack, its environs, and the less privileged in our society deserve special attention and as much help as they can get. A total of 100 students will today be benefiting from this academic award scholarship scheme. We give glory to Almighty God for granting us another opportunity to impact lives positively in our own little way.
Speaking as a special guest of honor, the Chief of Defense Staff, represented by Director of Sports, Air Vice Marshal Emmanuel Warner, commended the POA for its efforts in providing succor to families of fallen heroes, as well as encouraging outstanding students.
But when you have done a lot of that, putting physical infrastructures in place, you're also choosing to invest in what I consider to be the most important of all investments. Investment in human capital. It's not tangible. You may not see it. You may not touch it, like this edifice we are in here. But I tell you, it's the greatest of all investments. I'm sure if we're just seeking for names, if we're just trying to make landmarks and impressions for ourselves, you wouldn't have invested that much on humanity. You wouldn't have invested that much on wiping away the tears of those that mourn. It is quite humiliating. It is quite sobering. I think that is something for each and every one of us to go home to think about.
One of the mother of the beneficiaries also thanked the POA for their support.
My son is one of the beneficiaries. I was indeed happy because I can say for the past, it's going to 13 years now that I lost my husband. I have not gotten any help from any organization. It is only God that just make this woman to come up and remember me. Just pour me like this, he remember me. And today, they give my son a scholarship to study in the university. I'm indeed very happy.
The quote, "You have not lived today until you have done something for someone who can never repay," is evidence, as this is the first award and scholarship ceremony to ever hold in the history of the POA. Prudence Okonna reporting for Clearview Television.
The Misaro DPS, in collaboration with Catholic Secretariat of Nigeria this Thursday, held a strategic workshop tagged Better Ways of Human Rights Promotion in Nigeria. The event was held at the St. Gabriel Parish, Durumi. Clearview TV's correspondent Chinedu Mbatwegu was at the event and on the report.
Clearview is a German Catholic bishops' organization for development cooperation. The body is committed to combat poverty in Africa, Asia and Latin America. The body is also available for support to anyone regardless of their religion, ethnicity or gender. The director of Miserio Foundation in Nigeria is Andrew Scaler.
In the development cooperation in general and for Miserio in particular, human rights-based approaches, HRBA, have become standard. To base development work on human rights is meant to assure sustainability as well as empowerment of the people themselves. We don't do just charity, but especially the vulnerable, so-called people without voice or the invisible people are addressed as right holders. The targeted people, beneficiaries, all have a right to a life of dignity. As much as Miserio projects are meant to satisfy basic needs like food security, portable water, health service, they promote human rights so that people articulate their interests, needs as persons and groups that know their rights and obligations.
Also speaking at the event, Reverend Father Uche Obodoechina, Secretary of the Justice, Development and Peace Commission, harped on the role of the Church towards the service of humanity, noting that every human person is important and should be accorded all forms of rights they deserve.
The human person must be at the center in our quest for development. To combat global poverty requires justice and solidarity in the form of investment in the resourcefulness of the poor, and from eliminating them, making them protagonists in their emergence out of poverty. The poor need education to be transformed from dependency to resourcefulness. If everyone's political, religious, and economic rights and freedoms are respected, the paradigm will shift from mere poverty management to wealth creation, from viewing the poor not as a burden, but as a part of the solution. And the water point of this section is that each person created in the image and likeness of God has a dignity that is conferred on him by God himself.
The promotion and protection of human rights has drawn the attention of the world, with Nigeria subscribing to major international human rights instruments. as way of fostering civil liberties. Chinedu Mbatwegu reporting for Clearview Television.
You're watching Clearview Television News. The news continues after this timeout. Welcome back. And on the foreign news, Taiwan's parliament has become the first in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage following a vote on Friday. In 2017, the island's constitutional court ruled that same-sex couples have the right to legally marry. Parliament was given a 2-year deadline and was required to pass the changes by 24 May. Lawmakers debated 3 different bills to legalize same-sex unions, and the government's bill, the most progressive of the 3, was passed. Thousands of gay rights supporters gathered in the rain outside the parliament building in the capital, Taipei, to await the landmark ruling. There were shouts of joy and some tearful embraces as the result was announced. However, conservative opponents were angered by the vote. The 2 other bills, submitted by conservative lawmakers, refer to partnership as a same-sex family, relationships or same-sex unions rather than marriages. But the government's bill, also the only one to offer limited adoption rights, was passed by 66 to 27 votes, backed by lawmakers from the majority Democratic Progressive Party. It will take effect after Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen passes it into law. Several same-sex activists had said ahead of the vote that this was the only version they would accept. And you are still watching Clearview Television News. We will now join our sports correspondent for the latest in the world of sports.
There it is. What a shot from Tiger. And the Jamaican juggernaut scores his first goal for a professional side. And
hello and welcome to the sporting segment of Clearview TV News. I'm Ogutimeyin Tululakwa Ogutimeyin. President of Nigeria Football Federation, Amaju Melvin Pinnick, has frustrated that the football governing body will soon constitute a welfare foundation for former Nigerian international players in order to guarantee ready funding for them in case of unexpected health challenges. The NFL Supremo, also the first vice president of the Confederation of African Football, gave this assurance in London on Thursday, hours after receiving former Nigeria captain Christian Chukwu alongside his wife and sister after Chukwu arrived for medical treatment. You will recall that the last ITO NFL Football Awards in Lagos on 1st April 2019, we had announced that a welfare foundation would be suited for our legends to take care of them in times of their need. At that time, we didn't even have any idea that Chukwu will be faced with this kind of health challenge. I'm happy that he's here now, and we have made adequate arrangement for his surgery, medication, and general after-surgery care. He will get the best treatment possible, and we are confident he will return to Nigeria hale and healthy and sound of mind and body. Chukwu arrived in London on Thursday in company with his wife Liliani Keruka, his sister Edith Chinelo Motaya, and Dr. Ibrahim Garan, who is medical doctor of the Super Eagles. He will have the surgery and immediate after-surgery care at the Wellington Hospital on Sycos Road in St. John's Wood. President of Nigeria Football Federation, Amaju Pinnick, has charged Nigeria under-20 boys, the Flying Eagles, to do the nation proud on and off the field at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup starting in Poland on Thursday. Pinnick, in company with NFF General Secretary Dr. Mohamed Sanusi, arrived at the Flying Eagles, the Monarch Hotel camp in Bad Goggin, Germany on Friday morning, ahead of the team's dispatcher to the World Cup on Sunday. The duo later joined the team at training. I have spoken to the head coach and he has assured me that you guys have made tremendous progress since arriving at the training camp in Germany. Let me state clearly that an under-20 squad for Nigeria, so much is expected of you at the world stage. Nigeria has made it in the final of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup on 2 occasions and won the bronze medal once before. The NFF Nigeria generally, as well as the football world, expects so much from you in Poland. You must perform very well on the field while showing good attitude and sense of fair play, and also make discipline, diligence and decency your watchword of the field in order to fly Nigeria's flag high. On Friday, the Flying Eagles engaged Red Bull Leipzig of Germany in their final pre-World Cup friendly, 3 days after drawing 1-1 with Red Bull Salzburg and that friendly in Austria. The Flying Eagles delegation will fly from Germany to Turkey on Sunday. They will take on Qatar in their first match of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup on Friday, 24th May, before other Group D games against USA and Ukraine. The Flying Eagles are now shopping for opponents for a final warm-up after today's friendly against Hanover was called off for logistical reasons. Official of the Federation in an interview said the team are now working hard on getting a local team to round up their build-up for the Under-20 World Cup in Poland. The match will now be played tomorrow. The Flying Eagles won 1, drew 2 and lost 1 of their test matches since they moved to Euro for their final preparation. The Flying Eagles will fly to Poland Sunday morning. They will open a World Cup campaign next Friday against Qatar. FIFA World Cup bound Nigeria a firm favourite for the WAFU Women's Cup after eliminating coupled as Ghana in the second semi-final following a penalty shootout at their state Robert Chaperos in Abidjan on Thursday. In the event, the nine-time African champions set up a final match date with host nation Côte d'Ivoire, which we hold at the same venue on Saturday. The encounter with Ghana was a repeat of last year's semi-final, which the Super Falcons lost, and although both teams had chances to score, regulation time ended 0-0, and the game had to go into penalty shootout. The Dame Elephants fluffed 2 of their kicks to hand Nigeria victory. The competition has been quite interesting and it has been a great experience for the Super Falcons against their variants. We will play our normal game, approach things calmly and take our chances. Winning the World Cup will be good for the girl spirit and just reward for their endeavor here. It will also significantly motivate and spur those members of the team who will be going with us in the FIFA World Cup final camp in Austria on Monday. The Falcons are due back in Nigeria on Sunday, while the delegation to the FIFA World Cup final camp in Austria will depart Nigeria on Monday night. Nigeria Tornadoes manager Hamza Abara is optimistic that his lads will do well when they slug it out against former league winners Enyimba on Monday. The Ikoala boys will be hoping to survive the drop after 4 seasons in the Nigeria Professional Football League. In the 2017-2018 season, Hamza Abara guided the team to the 9th position before the World Cup break. Nigeria Tornadoes will face Enyimba on Monday instead of Sunday in Aba. The league management company directed all participating for the reschedules of Nigeria Professional Football League match day 21 and 22 games Monday of 20th of May instead of Sunday 19th, while the match day 22 will be played on the 26th of May. Ahmed Musa has been crowned champion in only his 4th season in Saudi Arabia after Al Nassr won their final game of the campaign against Al Batin. Al Nassr beat relegated Al Batin 2-1 in front of their fans to finish on 70 points from 30 matches, a point ahead of closest rival Al Hilal. The championship means Al Nassr will represent Saudi Arabia in next season AFC Champions League. This is only their 3rd championship title after they topped the league in 2013-2014, 2014 and 2015 season. The 26-year-old Ahmed Musa scored 7 goals in 24 matches for Al Nassr. He has previously been champion in Russia with CSK Moscow. Manager Massimiliano Allegri will leave Serie A champions Juventus at the end of the season. The 51-year-old Italian has won the league title in each of his 5 seasons since taking charge in 2014. Juventus, who signed Cristiano Ronaldo last summer for $99.2 million, reached the quarterfinals of the Champions League and Coppa Italia this season. They have 2 league games remaining this season, starting with Atalanta at home on Sunday. Last week, Allegri said he was amused at rumors suggesting he would leave Juventus. Serie A champions for the past 8 seasons, Allegri and club president Andrea Agnelli are set to speak at the news conference on Saturday. Allegri's final game will be at Sampdoria on 26th of May. And that's it from the sporting segment of Clearview Television. I'm Ogutimehin to Lulapo Ogutimehin.
There it is. What a shot from Tiger. And the Jamaican juggernaut scores his first goal for a professional side.
And before we go, another look at the top stories again. Nigeria's Supreme Court has fixed May 24 for judgment in the appeals over the disqualification of all Progressive Congress candidates in the 2019 general elections in Zamfara State. Bauchi State Assembly has passed a bill banning all forms of gambling, ownership and operations of gaming machines, including NairaBet and BetNiger in the state. We also told you that Taiwan's parliament is now the first country in Asia to legalize same-sex marriages. And that's the news. Remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel via Clearview TV, like us on Facebook via Clearview Television, follow us on Twitter at Clearview Online, follow us on Instagram at Clearview TV_NG. You can also watch Clearview TV on Nightcomsat with any free-to-air decoder. For details, contact your local installer. I am Rose Audu. Many thanks for watching.